runs our digital lives, but we barely ever see it. We're talking about algorithms and how they're the secret puppet masters choosing almost everything you see online.
Come on, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're just scrolling through your feed and boom, a video or an article pops up that feels like it was made just for you. Or maybe it's something totally bizarre, and you just have to wonder, where did that come from? Well, it's definitely not magic. It's technology. And believe me, the story behind it is fascinating.
So, to really get why these algorithms even exist, we've got to go back to the original problem they were invented to solve. And you can sum up that problem pretty easily. It was a digital flood. I mean, just think for a second about who's making all this stuff online. Of course, you've got the professionals, the news outlets, big companies, governments, artists, researchers, you name it. But the real game changer? That was when we all got the keys, when every single one of us became a potential creator. And that just unleashed this absolute tidal wave of information. Every blog post, every photo, every single video, it all just added to this giant, growing ocean of data. It got so big, so fast, that it was literally impossible for any person to sort through it on their own. You know, there's actually a name for this. It's called information overload. It's that feeling of being totally paralyzed because there are just too many options. The early internet had a massive case of this, and it was screaming for a solution, any way to filter through all that noise. And that right there leads us to the solution. The thinking was, if humans can't possibly sort through this digital mess, well, maybe machines can. And this is where the algorithmic gatekeepers step onto the scene. What we're talking about here is something called algorithmic curation. It's basically using these complex automated systems to be your own personal editor. They watch what you do, they guess what you might like, and then they serve it right up to you. Now, it might seem super complicated. And yeah, the math behind it really is. But the basic idea, the core logic, it really just boils down to two main ways of doing things. Let's break those down. Okay, so the first method is called collaborative filtering. Think of it like digital word of mouth. The system finds other people who have tastes like yours, and then it recommends stuff that they liked. It's all about human patterns. The second method is content-based filtering. This one completely ignores other people. It just looks at the content itself, the genre, the topic, the style, and finds more things with those same attributes. A really great example of content-based filtering is Pandora Radio. When you start a station, Pandora doesn't care what other fans of that band are listening to. Nope. Instead, it literally analyzes the musical DNA of that song, the melody, the rhythm, the harmony, and then it goes out and finds other songs that have a similar genetic makeup. So these filtering methods were already really powerful. But then one company took them and basically changed the entire world. To really understand the algorithmic reality we live in now, you have to talk about the YouTube revolution and the person who saw it coming. Susan Wojcicki's story is the stuff of Silicon Valley legend. I mean, she was literally there from the start, renting her garage to Google's founders. She was instrumental in building Google's ad business. But her biggest, most important insight came in 2006. She noticed that Google's own video service was just getting crushed by this tiny, scrappy startup. And she realized that instead of trying to beat them, Google needed to buy them. And she didn't just suggest it, she convinced Google's top brass to make an enormous bet on the future of user-created videos. How big? A $1.65 billion bet. Back then, that was an absolutely mind-boggling amount of money for a little company that was mostly known for people uploading videos of their cats. And she saw it through, managing the whole acquisition. This one move completely changed the trajectory of the internet. It made YouTube the undisputed king of online video, and more importantly for our story, the ultimate laboratory for building the most powerful recommendation algorithms the world had ever seen. All right, so problem solved, right? We tamed the digital flood. But what happens when the solution to one problem ends up creating a whole new set of its own? Well, that leads us right into the world that we're all living in today. It turns out these incredibly smart tools, these things that were designed to help us navigate the chaos, they came with some serious unforeseen side effects. By giving us our own personalized version of reality, they also started to box us in, creating new kinds of problems that we're still trying to get our heads around. One of the biggest consequences you always hear about is the echo chamber. And it makes sense, right? If an algorithm's number one job is to show you things you're going to like, then it's naturally going to serve up stuff that confirms what you already believe. And over time, that can build a wall around you, shutting out different perspectives. And look, this isn't some evil plan. The system is just doing its job, which is to keep you engaged. But the unintended consequence is that you might stop seeing new or challenging ideas, and pretty soon, your little bubble starts to feel like the whole world. But there's another issue here, one that doesn't get talked about as much. The algorithm doesn't treat every creator the same. It finds what's popular, what's engaging, and it pushes that to the top. This creates something called overrepresentation, which means what you're seeing isn't a fair reflection of the community at all. And when you look at the numbers, it is absolutely staggering. Studies have shown that on a lot of these platforms, a tiny, tiny fraction of the users, we're talking like the top 1%, are creating more than half of all the content that the rest of us see. It's like giving a very small group of people a giant megaphone. Which brings us to the big final question. These algorithms were born to solve a real problem, and in many ways, they did. But they've also re-engineered our reality. Now we're living in a world where everyone's feed is a universe of its own, and where a few voices can easily drown out the many. So the question we really have to ask ourselves is, what happens to the very idea of a shared reality when we're all looking at a different world?